It's a pleasure to be here practicing with all of you here. Some of you I have met for a few days already, and some of you just right now. So, great pleasure. I was asked by Roshi to share a little bit about the practice. There is a Chinese saying that says, you are showing off your skill outside the master's house. Like when someone's trying to perform how to move a weapon, like an axe, like a martial artist. And I really feel a little bit like this now, like being in the presence of two Roshis in the monastery here. So I will try my best to say something useful. And I thought I will share a little bit about what I had put together in a book that will be coming out next year. And I would like to start with asking us, inviting you to reflect on why it is that we practice. I hear a lot from the residents in the last few days. That's why I'm here. I want to practice. What are we talking about when we say want to practice? And I hear words like wanting to awaken, wanting awakening. Right? I hope that also means to be free from suffering. Is that included? Okay, so, Dukkha. So, what are we saying when we say to be awake? Are we awake now? We're not sleeping, we're not in our bed, but are we awake? Here, awakening refers to be awakened from our deluded mind, our delusion, referring to the entrenched habits of forgetting that every moment is the coming together of causes and conditions. Every moment is brand new. We might have heard this many times. I'm sure you have, in many different ways. Yeah, I know I've heard it. But we forget it over and over and over again. No? Our habit, our default is to forget. Forgetting that the body and mind, think about your body right now. The sensations. Are you hungry? Maybe you are ready for lunch already. Or you're feeling warm, you're feeling cold. You're feeling some physical discomfort from the sitting. How about the mind? What are the thoughts coming through? Emotions, memories, and everything around us, the lighting, the temperature, humidity. But they are all constantly changing, coming together of causes and conditions in this space and time. Never the same. You're not the same person. From the moment you enter this hall at 10, or even during the Kinghin practice, just a few minutes earlier, constantly changing. But we forget that. When we forget that, we fall into the habit of believing that there is an independently, inherently existing self that is separate from the world, separate from others. Isn't that how we usually think of our existence? I'm here, out there. And this sense, this is the delusion, the deluded mind that we are practicing to be awakened from, to unlearn this habit of forgetting emptiness. And the other is not only about the space outside of us, other people. The other can include the part of us what's happening in our body and mind. Have you gone to war with your own body? Hating the physical sensations you're experiencing, hating what's arising in your mind. So we are very good at that. I don't need to talk anymore. We know how to do that. And so what we're doing oftentimes in this entrenched habits is to turn that which is really a ceaseless flow of causes and conditions coming together and turning it into a fixed entity in our mind. We label it with our language and then decide whether we like it or dislike it. I like it, I want more. I want more. Craving. If I don't like it, go away. We reject it, hate it, try our best to get rid of it. Aversion. So we are constantly going between craving more what we like, hating what we dislike. Samsara, suffering.
I think your hair is rustling on the mic.
Down more?
Yeah, down like 2 inches.
Ah. Okay. How about now? Okay. I'm sorry. Is it better? Was my micro? Okay. So, thank you. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about how we create suffering for ourselves. And you might think, yeah, that's what I do, so what? I like it, I'm not going to change. The trouble is when we suffer, we also cause suffering for other people, no? When we are agitated, when we are dissatisfied with something, we often inflict it on people around us. Often the people closest to us get the most of it. The people we claim to love the most tend to get the most of harm and hurt inflicted by us. And I brought this up but it's not for us to think, oh, okay, yeah, now I know. Suffering is my enemy. So I need to get rid of suffering. Some of you may have heard the Dharma this way, that okay, my problem is suffering, so I need to my practice is about getting rid of suffering. If you pay attention to this way of thinking, then it's like, oh yeah, I know suffering is my enemy. I hate it. I want to get rid of it. Is that the same dynamic of setting something up as an independently existing entity now suffering, and we hate it? More aversion, what is that? What's the result of that? More suffering. Remember I said we're really good at it? We can turn anything into suffering. We can turn our wish to end suffering into suffering itself. I want to highlight this because we need to keep this in mind. If we're not aware of this, we might be thinking that we are practicing, but we might be inadvertently perpetuating the habits of suffering when we do not pay attention to these very entrenched habits of our mind. So here I pointed out that there's a lot of interest or great motivation to be awakened, to realize emptiness. And I'd like to, right off the bat, to dispel some common misunderstanding about what emptiness is. From my experience, this is one of the most misunderstood concepts and teaching in Buddhism. I hope you have heard clarification many times. I'm going to say it again here because our habit is to forget. Emptiness does not mean non-existence. Emptiness of self does not mean that the self does not exist. Everything exists. Everything, every one of us, me, everything exists. It's just not the way we assumed it to exist. The way our default is to assume that things exist as independently, inherently, separately existing entities apart from us, when the reality is that we all exist as interconnected beings. And so we all exist temporarily, moment after moment, of causes and conditions coming together. As I mentioned, causes and conditions of constantly changing body, mind, space around us. What this means is that to realize emptiness, we must be fully engaged and allow ourselves to fully experience existence moment after moment as it is. That's what we've been practicing here, on and off the cushion. I use the word suffering, dukkha. I often prefer the translation unsatisfactoriness, this experience of unsatisfactoriness, because oftentimes the word suffering invoke the image of like you being in agony. Maybe you are actually enjoying life, enjoying your food, enjoying your vacation. We can still manage to suffer. Have we done that? So the dukkha means the way we experience it is that oftentimes is whatever is happening in the present moment doesn't matter. We might be on vacation. Whatever is happening in the present moment is not good enough. It's not how it's supposed to be. Unsatisfactoriness. And that is the first noble truth my master, by my Shakyamuni Buddha. And you might be thinking, what? We're studying the Four Noble Truth here? That's like, I know about Four Noble Truth. I want something more advanced, more profound. Really, do we truly know suffering? Do we truly know how we suffer? Do we have clear awareness how, in different ways, we suffer? We experience this unsatisfactoriness. You might believe I only suffer once in a great while when I get upset. Think again. Our practice is to cultivate this clear awareness of how, in many different ways, we suffer and generate our suffering, which is the second noble truth. What is the second noble truth? I really find Master Sheng Yen's explanation of the second noble truth, cause of suffering, very important, very enlightening, because it points to the fact that suffering, too, is conditioned. It's not a fixed entity. That's why we don't need to turn it into our enemy to try to get rid of. What is suffering happens when the present moment, with the coming together of the present moment and our entrenched habits of reacting to what's going on in the present moment with vexations, kleshas, what I was just talking about. Fundamental ignorance of the emptiness of every moment, and reacting with craving for more what we like, hating, trying to reject what we dislike. And remembering that suffering is not an independently existing entity, that it is conditioned, is crucial in our practice. Because you may think, yeah, I know that. You forget that all the time. Because if you notice how you react to what happens in your meditation, you notice this habit of hating your vexations. Because you think that's your enemy. Oh, I know now. Okay, vexations is what causes my suffering. I don't want suffering. I hate my vexation. How do I get rid of my vexations now? See, we are really entrenched in thinking this way. Now we have reified vexations. So what this means is that when we do not give rise to vexations in this present moment, then the present moment is experienced as it is. Whatever is happening, we allow it to be as it is. That's all. That's why the practice of just sitting means just sit, just let the body sit and breathe. Easy, right? Easy, right? Simple. Have you found it quite difficult to do? Because we're so good at getting in the way of just sitting, just being fully here, allowing this body-mind to be in this space as it is. It's like, oh, my body's not relaxed enough. My mind is not calm enough. It's too hot. It's too cold. The person next to me is breathing too loudly. Does it sound familiar? We are really good at nitpicking the present moment. So whatever is happening in the present moment, it's not how it's supposed to be. It's not good enough. If you think you're not good at anything, you're most definitely wrong. We are very, very good at suffering. You can put it on top of your resume. Expertise, suffering. When we can be with the present moment as it is, without adding vexation, these entrenched habits of reacting to the present moment with vexation, then whatever is happening, there is no suffering. Whatever is happening, that means even when we are very sick, the body is feeling a lot of pain. That is pain. That is sensation. But we do not need to add vexation and turn it into suffering. We can be going through a process of a loved one's end of their life. Very difficult. But we don't need to turn it into suffering. Have you seen people reacting to the death of a loved one with a great deal of suffering and causing great pain to everyone around them? We don't need to do that. We cannot avoid losing a loved one to death. We cannot avoid our death, but we can practice not to turn that into suffering. That is what we are doing in our practice. So what that means is that we fully allow what's happening. It might be physical or emotional pain to be fully experienced. When we allow it to be fully experienced, we will notice that these physical or emotional pain, like everything else, conditioned, coming together of causes and conditions, and they're constantly changing. And we allow them to be fully experienced. We also allow ourselves to see that they too are impermanent. Now, I want to point out that, a lot of people say, yes, I know it's impermanent, that's what I like. So I know the pain is impermanent. I sit here, okay, it's impermanent, you can go now. We're talking about being fully with it and allow it to move on its own. The more we try to make it end, demanding it to be impermanent at the pace of our choosing, we are generating suffering. We are resisting the present moment unfolding as it is. But we are quite good at doing that too. So we weaponize these concepts of impermanence to generate suffering for ourselves and others. I spent time to talk about the first two Noble Truths because usually when folks hear about the Four Noble Truths, oh yeah, suffering, cause of suffering, I want the third one. It's like you go to a restaurant, it's like, I want number 3. Yeah, it's like, I'm going to skip number 1 and 2. I go to tell me how to get number 3. The third truth, cessation of suffering. There's a reason why suffering and cause of suffering are the first and second Noble Truth. We need to truly realize and understand our suffering and how we cause our suffering, how we get in the way of our being fully here, present moment as it is. Then we can release our entrenched habits, unlearn our habits of reacting to the present moment with our vexations. When vexations don't arise, suffering does not arise. Remember, suffering is conditioned by the coming together of the present moment and vexations. And it is not just about thinking, oh, okay, this is the formula, I'm going to go do that. We have to be fully engaged with every moment of our entrenched habits of reacting to the present moment with vexations, so that we can understand these entrenched habits intimately, moment after moment, how it unfolds. It's very different from, oh yeah, I have that habit, I know, I do that, I want it gone. It's not like on the computer you can just delete something and delete that file. It's not how it works. And that's why we engage in the practice of meditation. In case you've been wondering why we do sitting meditation, what is it that we are doing? It is helpful to gain some clarity on what it is that we are doing when we are doing sitting meditation. Why do we do sitting meditation? Have you asked yourself lately? Some people may get the vague sense that, oh yeah, like sitting meditation is good. It's like, because it makes me feel relaxed. Help me feel calm, make me relax, feel calm. that they're good, and oftentimes we do feel calmer, more relaxed in the body and mind when we do meditation. And I don't know if it has happened to you. If you mention this benefit of meditation to a friend who doesn't meditate, they'd be like, oh, like I go hiking instead to be calm. Have you heard that? Because there are actually a lot of different ways outside sitting meditation to feel calm, to feel relaxed. You can go hiking, you can go get a massage. Some people use alcohol or drugs to feel good. If your purpose is to feel good, to feel a certain way, you might after a while realize, I may not need to endure the leg pains and the back pain to feel good. There are many ways to feel good. This is not the primary purpose of sitting meditation practice. It's a side product. I point this out because if we do not have clarity on this, if we think, I'm doing meditation to feel good, and after a while you're like, I don't see the point of this because you can feel good doing other things, and then you give up. And that would be a shame. And also, some people may have the habit of like wanting to be really good at doing things. So everything you do, you strive to master it. So it's like, okay, I'm here spending a lot of time doing meditation. I'm going to want to ace this thing. I want to, in your mind, you want to become a really good meditator. I just said, I'm just going to not move. I'm going to be that meditator who does not move, who never drift off the method. I want to win the meditation Olympic gold medal. Is that what we are doing? Turning meditation into a sport. I brought this up because sitting meditation, even though it seems quite different from our daily activity, it really is not apart or separated from our daily life. The mindset, the orientation, the way of thinking that drive our life off the cushion, we bring to the cushion. If you're a competitive person, you want to come into the Zendo to win the meditation Olympic gold medal. Or you want to be the best meditator in the room. Now I'm going to sit the longest, never move. I'm going to be number one. I talk about this so that maybe we can gain some clear awareness around maybe there are traces of these thoughts in our meditation practice. And sitting meditation, why do we do sitting meditation? We do sitting meditation in order first to make use of a method of meditation. Maybe do you use the breath method? Following breath method? Breath method or other method to settle the mind, to train the mind, to allow the mind to be more settled. Usually in our daily life, our mind is very scattered, confused. I like to use the analogy of like a jar of water with a lot of silt in it. Our mind usually is this jar of water all shaken up, muddy, no clarity. Can't see what's in the mind at all. That's why Roshi kept reminding us, be aware of what your mind is doing. And before we practice meditation, the mind is so all over the place, we have no way of seeing what's going on in the mind. And that's why very often, for many people, the first time they sit down in meditation, they're a little bit shocked or horrified at how all over the place their mind is. And it's wonderful that you know how scattered the mind has been. And so the function of the method is to settle down the mind. With the mind a little more settled, in the process of settling the mind, we also can cultivate clear awareness of the subtle, entrenched habits of the mind, moment after moment, how these entrenched habits of reactivity, I've been calling fixations, the craving, the aversion, show up. You might think that I don't have much craving. I come and live in simplicity in the monastery. I don't have craving. Really? You haven't been paying attention. That's what sitting meditation does, to provide us with the opportunity to really see into our mind what it is doing. And in the Zen practice, we practice to see into the nature of our mind. So when we can just sit, it allowed us with the opportunity to reconnect with the true nature of our existence, to see that truly every moment of our existence is the coming together of causes and conditions. I don't know about your experience. Has that been what you're realizing every moment in your meditation? Or have you been trying to sit, trying to meditate, trying to stay on your method? And in sitting meditation, it provides us with an opportunity to see all the ways that we get in the way of ourselves in just being here fully. We can just sit right now. We can just be here. But no. We are good at getting in the way of ourselves with all these habits. And it provides us an opportunity to gain insight into the various mode of operations that has been running our life that we bring into sitting meditation. And you may think, what a disaster that is. I want to meditate well. No, this is wonderful. Like you might think that when you sit in meditation that like you become a different person. Suddenly you just because your butt sit on this round thing, your mind will stop. Have you had that expectation? It's like, I don't know what's wrong. One of the most common complaint I get from students is like my mind, I have all these thoughts, I sit in meditation, I don't want these thoughts. There's this expectation that just because your butt is on this round cushion, that the mind will stop. As if there's like a magic secret button behind your cushion. You sit down and press and the mind stops. Yeah. When you're sitting down in meditation, your mind's still running the way you usually do in your daily life. It just gives you an opportunity to see in a more simplified environment how these habits, these mode of operation have been running your life without your awareness. That's why a lot of people said they come to practice because they want to be a more patient person. They want to be more loving. They want to be less critical. But I can't. Words of criticism just blurt out. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened? The word came out. What you mean is you don't know the thought after thought that came before the words, the criticism that's been running your life. the mind. So paying attention to how we go about our meditation and how we react to what happens in meditation is the work in meditation, so that we can see how we generate our suffering and how we can unlearn these entrenched habits. I realize I just used up all my time, but would I be okay? I spend a few minutes talking about the common mode of operation that shows up, and see if it resonates with you, that you recognize you're doing that in your meditation. One common mode of operation is that it might have happened to you. You come to meditation, maybe your very first meditation, or maybe happens sometime in your meditation, that you have a session that is so calm, so quiet, the mind. You feel bliss, so wonderful. And then you spend the next days and weeks and months and years trying to recreate it. Anyone? You remember that wonderful meditation experience. And you thought, that's it, I got it. That's what I want. That's what I want. And I want more. I want to re-experience it again. Craving, forgetting that every moment is the coming together of causes and conditions. However blissful a meditative experience, it's impermanent. We cannot recreate it exactly as it is. It does not mean that you will not have another blissful experience. But as long as you try to recreate that one you had years ago, you are going to be unable to meditate with a settled mind. Because what you're doing is that you're holding your memory of that moment, not the actual moment, your idea, your memory of that moment, and constantly judging the present moment with that, agitating your mind. Oh, like it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. It's not calm enough, it's not clear enough, it's not silent enough, it's not still enough, it's not relaxed enough, not good enough. Suffering. And chances are, if we are prone to doing this in meditation, that might be a reflection of what we do in our life. Perhaps the habit of holding up a certain period of our life, certain experiences in our life as perfect, wonderful, and our constantly trying to recreate that experience in our life. Suffering. Making whatever is happening right now in our life, which really might be quite wonderful as it is, but it's not good enough. Suffering. And so take a look to see if that's what we're doing in our meditation that help us gain insight into how we are generating suffering in our life. Another common mode is this mode of what I call the foggy mind. Many practitioners come to meditation believing that what they need to achieve is a mind of no thought. My goal is to sit in meditation where there's no thought. So the project is to create a mind of no thought. First of all, that is an erroneous view, that is a misunderstanding. The present moment is going to be the present moment. If there are thoughts, they're going to be their thoughts. It's fine because thoughts are not permanent. They arise, they come through the mind, and they go away. No different from sounds of birds singing outside the window. Do you sit in meditation? It's like, I wish that bird would just stop singing, go away. But if we sit here and thinking that the thoughts are not supposed to be here in this moment, we are doing exactly the same thing. It's just part of the present moment, no problem. We turn it into a problem. And so some people deal with this so-called problem, which is not a problem, of thoughts, by creating a foggy mind. Because I want to have this state of mind that is peaceful with no thought, and figure out a way to do it, creating a veil of fogginess in our mind, like a trance that we enter every time we sit down in meditation. It feels so peaceful. If every time you sit down in meditation, you feel that same sensations of peace, you might want to look into whether that's what you're doing, generating this foggy mind. And this foggy mind is this layer of fog that obscure all the thoughts that are actually arising in the mind. So we're not cultivating any clear awareness of the activities of the mind at all. We're just deceiving ourselves. And it is actually quite common. I've met many practitioners who do that and are convinced that they are practicing well because they believe that's the goal, is to cultivate a mind with no thought. And so see if that is happening in your meditation. And because it is also a perpetuation of an erroneous view, forgetting that every moment is brand new. That means every moment, every time we sit in meditation, it's a brand new experience. Don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes busy mind, sometimes not so busy mind, not a problem. It's the coming together of causes and conditions. If you had a busy day, a lot happening, you sit down, things happen. Busy mind, no problem. That is the present moment as it is, thoughts arising. And see if this tendency to obscure thought with this attitude of foggy mind shows up in our life. There's some people who do that in their meditation. They find that in their life they are disengaged from what's happening in their life because they want to avoid being disturbed by difficult emotions, by difficulty, maybe conflict in their life. So they create this veil, this fogginess between them and what's happening around them. Disengaging. Of course, it may sound like a good strategy to avoid pain and discomfort, but we are also not allowing ourselves to connect fully with others, to truly experience love from others when we live in this disengaged way. Also, we might at the same time be evading our responsibility in a situation when we are disengaged from what is happening. One last mode I will share. I obviously cannot realize I can't talk about everything I talk about in my book. This is also quite common with practitioners that I like to share with you. You might want to look into that. What we call some kind of problem-solving mode. So remember, some people think that like my goal is to achieve a mind with no thought, and to try to be on the method perfectly, not be distracted by thoughts. And so that is my mission. So there is people who are good problem solvers coming to, this is a problem. Like, what's the problem? Let me solve it. Okay, the problem is that the breath might be unpredictable. I need to follow the breath. And the breath sometimes long, sometimes short, and I can lose track of it because of it. What is the solution? Problem solvers, control the breath. I control the breath, then I know exactly when I'm inhaling, when I'm exhaling, when I'm inhaling, then I can follow my breath perfectly. I can ace this meditation. Where is my prize? Looking for Roshi. Me, I'm an A student. Want to be perfect. Fear of failure, fear of drifting from method. Drifting off the method is not a problem. It provides us with an opportunity to practice remembering to come back to the method. It's not a problem. But we notice, if we see that as a failure and fear it, that motivate us to control our breath so that we can be on the breath perfectly, check that out. What is that all about? Does that show up in our life? Fear of failure, want to be perfect, fear of uncertainty, wanting to control people, control our environment so that we don't need to deal with uncertainty. And related to that, some people use the method, really exert a lot of energy into their method, into their breathing, to drown out their thoughts. So the goal is to have no thought. I have a solution to breathe so loud that I can't hear my thoughts. The instruction is to be on the method. I'm on it. Breathe and breathe and breathe and breathe. If you count so loud, you can't hear anything but your method. I'm fully on the method. I'm doing it good, right? And no thoughts, blocking out the thoughts. So again, we are not allowing ourselves to cultivate moment to moment clear awareness of what's going on in our mind. But at the same time, when you notice that you are getting into this strategy, it's giving you some insight into your mode of operation. Do you do that in your life? Turning everything into a problem to be solved. This person is not behaving the way they're supposed to be. It's now your project to fix that person. Turning that person into a problem to be fixed. If you have done that, you know how that turns out. Suffering for ourselves, suffering for others. And I guess one last mode, I call that intellectualizing mode. Many of us have studied a great deal. We will know everything about emptiness and impermanence, can recite them backward and forward. And so I will have practitioners who will say, oh yeah, my meditation is good. It's like I've thought, yep, it's just impermanent, empty, the emptiness passing through. Practicing well, right? This person is seeing emptiness all the time. Are they seeing emptiness? Or reciting the word emptiness? Can you tell the difference? Intellectualizing mode. What this person is doing is substituting concept, using concept as a substitute for directly experiencing the moment-to-moment unfolding of causes and conditions, and fooling themselves into believing that they are gaining great insight. See, I'm seeing emptiness all the time. I'm just reciting the word emptiness. That's why in Zen, emphasize letting go of the concept when we are practicing, because of the tendency to make use of concept instead as a substitute for directly experiencing our existence. And people who like to do that often do the same thing in their life, believing that they know something already because they've read about it. The words, instead of actually seeing, listening to the people right in front of them. I already know. No, we don't know. We are using concepts and ideas as substitute for directly seeing, hearing people in our life. So I hope this helps you reflect on what happens in your meditation. And if in this moment you are thinking that, oh dear, I have these habits, and you feel this habit of hating these habits, you want to get rid of them, remember that these, what we've been calling habits or vexations, are not independently existing entities. In fact, the sixth lineage master of Chan, Master Sheng Yen, talked about that vexation is Bodhi. We don't need to hate and try to get rid of this vexation, but to really, really fully experience it as it is, meaning as these habits unfold and rise up moment after moment, fully experience it, then we can see what triggers it, what thought and emotion or memory comes up, thought after thought, and the power of feeling compelled to perpetuate it, thought after thought after thought, why it is so powerful. And as we see clearly how it unfolds, thought after thought, that means we can always choose not to give rise to the next thought that we are so habituated to following. That's what the meditative practice of cultivating clear awareness allows us to do, to see clearly these very subtle entrenched habits unfold and be able to not give rise, perpetuate the next thought. That is how slowly, gently, these entrenched habits can be unlearned and released. And when vexations do not arise in situations, there is no suffering. That is the third noble truth. And the fourth noble truth, the Eightfold Path, is everything we do in life is practice with this way of seeing into the entrenched habits of our mind as we live our life in relationship, at work, and on the cushion. Thank you.